Let's talk about this report. It's on nbr.org. You can see it. It's how people use ChatGPT. It's something like that. Like, how are people using ChatGPT, I think is the official title of it. How people use ChatGPT, yes. So if you actually go look at it, and I would pull it up, but it just messes with the whole flow of things here. There's a chart. You probably have seen it if you've been on social media and look up anything related to AI. It's this rainbow colored chart with 7 bar graphs that shows here is how people are using ChatGPT. It's a chart you would expect to see in a research report called How People Are Using ChatGPT. Okay. So great. I'm glad it's there. It's making its rounds everywhere. I'm not necessarily thrilled with how much stake is being put in it. I actually think it misses what is really actually interesting in the report, but there's no denying it's helpful. So if you look at it, there's 7 categories. They organize all of the hundreds of millions, billions of interactions people are having with ChatGPT, and they're organizing it into, hang on one sec. Okay, so all of these things have been organized into 7 categories. Multimedia, which is like, creating images or things like that, analyzing an image, things like that. Other, which is kind of like, one category they have that's a small fraction, like asking questions about the model, but then there's just this other unknown. I don't know what that means. Practical guidance, which would be like education, like help how to do this, or, tutor me on this, or, self-care. They broke it down into some other things. Then there's seeking information. So if you're looking for something specific, I think the best way to do this would be like using it like a search engine. Hey, can you tell me more about this? Or what would I know? What's going on with this? Give me all this other stuff. Self-expression, which is where the relational piece comes into play. So you'll see in here, there's a lot of people going, see, relationships aren't really a concern. Only 1.9% of all prompts are focused on that. I think that's a misrepresentation, but we'll talk about that. Technical help, which really has to do with data analytics, math, and computer programming. So anything very technical. And then writing, which I think everybody would have been like, well, duh, where on earth is writing? Because people are using it to write. Now, like I said, I think it's helpful because within each of those 7, each one has 2 to 5 different subcategories. So it is interesting to look at it and to see overall. Now, one of the things that I think is really interesting is it does show the vast majority of how ChatGPT is being used. 80% roughly, it might even be a little over 80%, includes the guidance, the seeking information, and writing. So 80% of what people are using ChatGPT for is to get direction and information and then have it communicate for them. That's how most people are using it, which personally, this aligns with what I'm seeing consistently in consulting and in some of the assessment work I'm doing. I consider this like baseline, very basic foundational use of ChatGPT. You ask it for things because it can give you information in a way that's personalized and convincing. It's relatively good at finding stuff and then reporting it back to you, so you don't have to go look for it. And then it's built on language, so it writes. Whether it writes well can be debated, whether it writes accurately, right? All these other things. But that is the vast majority of what people are doing. Now, I think this in and of itself is concerning, okay? In that, a lot of what people are doing is asking AI, tell me what I need to know and what I need to do. That is concerning, especially given the nature of the way AI does what it does. Now, I'm not suggesting we ring alarm bells and go, oh my gosh, AI is, taking over our minds. I think that is a trend we should be paying very close attention to. Now, some might shoot that down and go, well, isn't that the same as Google? Like, don't people go to Google for stuff? Yes, they do. And that's why I'm saying I don't think this is a ring the alarm bells, sound the alarms. Oh my goodness, the end of the world is here. People have been doing this kind of stuff, right? You need to find information. You go to the best tool to do that. And AI is currently at least perceived as the best tool. So it's no surprise people are doing that. But I think when you think about the anthropomorphic nature of AI, the way it represents information, when you bring into the fact that it's wrong a lot about what it shares. And it has an agenda based on what I talked about last week with, Sam Altman, kind of like, hey, how are you guardrailing this? Like, what are your, ethical guidelines around? Well, we're just kind of hoping it figures itself out. It is shaping the information that you're getting. Now, like I said, Google did that too. So this isn't completely unique, but we do have to say this is on a new level. So the fact that it's being used so much, and what people are largely looking to it for is getting their information and getting direction on what to do. Should that be a cautionary point to be paying attention to? I absolutely think so. That's something that if you're an individual, you should be paying attention to. If you're a business leader, you need to be paying attention to, because that means where they're getting their information might be really, really wrong, and they may be getting it at a level that is going to make them believe that what they're doing is right, and it's going to give it to them in explicit instructions and personalize it however they want. I think the same can be said about the communication and the writing it's doing. Okay, a lot of stuff is being written by AI now, and the effect, that trickle-down effect, is significant, and that is the vast majority of how people are using it. Here's, though, what I don't like about this, and I want to transition to where I think actually this chart is not the most interesting. To me, those were like the biggest things I walked away from. Okay, it validates what I'm already seeing, which is most people are using it at a very basic level. That should be on our radar as a concern, given what they're doing with it and what we know about AI. Perfect. So for our own selves, for our teams, things like that, we should be making sure we're establishing, clear frameworks to mitigate those risks. That's it. To me, that was it. Other than maybe like, okay, it's relatively, we're early stage. However, the chart on the next page is the part that I actually think tells a more complete story. And what I mean by that is, even that chart above, you add up all the numbers, it comes to 100%. And you're like, okay. And what a lot of people are doing is they're then going, okay, this is, if you break down every human being, like this is what they're doing. Each person, if you had 100 people, you could line them up and go, oh, you're a person doing that. You're the person doing that. You're the person doing that. That actually isn't the way humans work. And I think that's one of the biggest things I'm seeing that's missing from a lot of the takeaways of this report, from a lot of the, applications people are taking from this, is they're like, oh, here is how people are doing things. And this is what percentage of people are doing this. Nobody's using AI for one thing. Nobody's just going, oh, what do you use a ChatGPT for? I only use it to make an image. Oh, okay, here's this nice little category. You're X person. No, people are using it and integrating it into their entire flow of work. There's a good chance that people are using it for everything on that chart. And I think that's missing from a lot of the application, which is why the next section actually goes deeper into, okay, when people are engaging with the tool, how are they engaging? And it breaks it into 3 categories: doing, asking, and then expressing. Now, one thing I don't like about the report is that it's similar to the categories where you're like, wait, even going back to the first chart, you might go, okay, so how are you differentiating between getting how-to advice versus seeking specific info? Wouldn't those things potentially be the same thing? Like, how is that radically different? I'm not quite understanding, where this breaks down. And so I think that's a really important factor to be considering, is like, okay, well, one, the categories aren't super clear. So when you get to the next section, the same lack of clarity is there. What's the difference between asking, doing, and expressing? And to me, expressing was the most confusing, because it's like you're neither asking for information or asking it to do a thing. But here's where I think the next chart actually gets really interesting, because what they did in each of those 7 categories is said, now let's look at, in that category of, say, practical guidance, are you asking it things? Are you asking it to do something, or are you expressing? And my best interpretation of expressing, when I think about it, is this like active going back and forth, you continuing to kind of think critically, you're reasoning with what it gave you and messing through. And honestly, one of the most concerning things I saw with that is in every category, expressing was like, boop, which I take that, and it's consistent with what I'm seeing everywhere, is people are either just asking for AI for things and taking it, or they're then taking it or, whatever, and then going, here, great, now do this with it. I just asked you for this, go get information on this. Great, now turn it into a PowerPoint. And what's missing, I think, in this expressing thing is the fact that people are not working with it. They're not going, well, wait a minute now. Like I'm reflecting on this, and I don't know that that lines up with what I'm seeing. Can we look at that from a different angle? What if we were to take that into consideration with these other factors? To me, it's that more Socratical, how are you actually probing and massaging and working with the information that AI is getting you? There's a huge majority of stuff that's just straight, I asked it for something, I told it to do something. And as you can imagine, there's a lot more like, it's being asked to do a lot of writing. It's being asked to do a lot of multimedia. There's not a lot of brainstorming or problem solving around imagery. It's just like, hey, make this picture. And then it's doing it. It's not inquiring or asking it like, I'm considering doing this. How might we go about doing this? Now, I posted about this on social media. One person already challenged me. So I'm not saying conclusively this is 100% what you should walk away from this. However, I am saying this very much fits the patterns that I'm seeing. And when you think about this in the broader context of a workflow, people are asking for practical guidance and seeking information, which then seems to be translating into, well, then now write the code, do the writing, create the multimedia. That middle step is concerningly missing from AI use, which not only is it concerning, it's concerning in that you're assuming what AI is giving you is correct, which it might not be. You're simply asking it to do a thing. And I just know from personal experience that once people usually ask AI to do something, they've kind of checked out and said, I've done my part. So that's concerning in and of itself. It looks like, can I say for sure? No, from this research, but from my own experience, this is how I see people using it. They're asking AI to do something, then they're taking what it gives them and then translating it straight to, now do this. That middle step, the critical thinking, the expression, the how do I do this in my voice? That's not the way I would say it. I'm doing this for this person. How might we make changes to this to better accommodate this? That deeper, higher order critical thinking, I labeled it critical thinking in my image, which set one person off, in a very colorful fashion. But that to me is what's missing from this, is when you really look at how people are using it, it's concerningly absent. And I think if anything, that's something that we absolutely need to take into consideration, whether you're an individual. If you're an individual, I would challenge you to go, is that, like, listening to this, does that fit your usage of ChatGPT? Do you ask it something, then take what it gives you at face value? Do you have follow-up prompts? I did a whole keynote this week where I was teaching people how to use AI for a development conversation as a leader. And one of the things that everyone consistently said at the end was, I didn't even think about all these things, because I talked about 5 key actions that you should do to get the most out of AI. And so if you're an individual and you're going, you know what, I'm listening to this, Christopher's right. This is kind of how I use AI. I just ask it a question and then I kind of take what it says and maybe go off and do my own thing, but I don't really go deeper than that. Or I take what it says and then I just ask it to do something. Or maybe I don't even ask it questions first. I just tell it to do something and take what it gives me. Either way, this consistently aligns with what I'm seeing. So to give an example of this, so I have an AI effectiveness rating. It assesses people on 6 categories of how they use AI and assesses, how effectively are you using it? And what I consistently see, it's on a 5-point scale, is most people, this is what they're missing. they're missing this. They're not actively working, critically thinking alongside AI as a thought partner. They're just kind of using it as a servant. Get me this, tell me this, find out this, do this for me. And that's dangerous as an individual. It's dangerous as an organization, which is why I think business leaders need to take that seriously, and why I would say you need to know, do people know how to use AI effectively? Not just are your adoption scores high. Do people know how to use it effectively? Because if they don't, they're just moving faster. They're just doing more. It may be no better. At best, it may just be more crap. At worst, they may be amplifying or bringing in new risks, because if they're going and asking things and not critically thinking, analyzing, massaging alongside AI, what they may be actioning against may be completely wrong. But I think on top of that, then for businesses, you need to keep in mind that this is introducing a lot of inherent risk, and what may look like success may actually be failure that is disguised as success, because there's a lot more happening. You're seeing more productivity. You're seeing more getting done. Things are turning around faster. You're producing more, all this stuff, which actually conveniently can disguise as effectiveness, but it's not. And the data seems to validate that. I don't know that we should trust that what we're getting out of AI, at least the way people are using it today, is effective. It's something, but I don't know that we can say it's effective based on what we're seeing here. Now, I'm going to kind of wrap there, because really there's a lot more you could potentially draw from this, but I don't necessarily think you can take this one data point and go, aha. But I wanted to represent this and talk through this, because I truly think people are looking at this and misreading it and jumping to conclusions that shouldn't be there. Now, what we can take from this is AI is dramatically changing the way people operate and what they do and how they, make decisions and the way they get work done. It absolutely is. And that's clear from the data. I think where there's opportunities to go deeper in this and go, one, we probably need to better understand, how people are doing it, and then make sure they're doing it well, because from what we can see here, we might just be running a lot faster and moving a lot quicker, but not getting anywhere better. Okay, so what can you do with that? I mean, I think first of all, one, self-reflect. Say, hey, does this line up with yourself? Does this line up with some of the things you're seeing within your teams or the people around you? If so, you definitely need to dig into it.